Hello and welcome back to the Ghost of Alcantra. Last time we got some information from the Elder, Miss Weatherton, although she seemed to be a lot more open or even kind with Nick. Not sure if that means anything for Victor really, but well, we're still with Nick's side of the story right now. The Elder's place and my usual meeting place with Alexandria were pretty much at opposite ends of town. The distance gave me the time I needed to psych myself up. Alexandria had decided to trust me, and I was going to trust her in return. I wanted to reassure her that I believed in her. What was the right way to go about this? She was probably nervous about how I'd respond, especially given the news of the second murder. Alexandria's normal behavior included a lot of playful blustering. She acted confident, but a lot of that was a front. Perhaps it was my turn to do a little acting. A little ridiculousness, an excuse to mask my insecurity, would convey to her that I knew what she was feeling. Like when she had proposed the deal that allowed us to become friends, it was my turn to provide the excuse for us to be together. Could I play the part of an Alexandria? I could give it a go. I could faintly see her form as I grew closer to our meeting spot. In contrast to her usual upright posture, her body language was downright abysmal, indicating the thoughts weighing her down. I walked up to her and loudly cleared my throat. She turned around, and her eyes widened at seeing me. "I honestly didn't think you'd come." I tried to give my best encouraging smile. Showtime. I gave a hearty laugh and then wagged my fingers at her. "I'm sure you have plenty to say, Princess, but you'd better let me do the talking first." She gave me a confused look. "You granted me time to think about the things you told me yesterday, and much thinking I have done. In these passing hours, I came to 3 conclusions." Was this how she acted back then? I think I was overdoing it, but it was too late now. I dramatically put a finger in the air. First, I believe that you told me the truth when you told me that you are Alexandria Thorne, daughter of the Thorne family, and that your woeful and pitiful social skills are attributable to your wretched upbringing. She looked at me, stunned by my change of behavior and the fact that I used multiple words with more than 2 syllables. I was kind of enjoying myself. Second, that the dear Alexandria Thorne that I know could never be involved in any murder. Perhaps the Thorne family is one of murderers, but at the very least, one Thorne remains free of bloodshed. It seemed like Alexandria didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or smile. I knew I was going to cringe about all this later, but I persevered. And third, that the promise I made to you yesterday is one that shall be kept eternally. Even the most tempting of bribes or the most horrid of tortures could not pry your secrets from me. She finally laughed. She laughed for a good long while, long enough that I began thinking of what I had said and started to get embarrassed. She stood up to face me. "You really are an idiot, you know that?" She shook her head playfully. "You can break your promise if you're tortured. You have my permission." I scoffed. "Like torture could ever stop me from keeping a promise. Your secret is safe with me, Alexandria Thorne. Let me allay your doubts with this." I coughed dramatically, and Alexandria raised an eyebrow. "You got a big speech planned or what?" I didn't, but I could try." "Yeah, let's hear it." I gave it some thought. How about I combine the big words of an Alexandria Thorne, the stupidity of a Warburton, and the earnestness of a Nick Fox? I could do this. "You see, Miss Thorne, as the passerby in your life who brought you into this convoluted and conniving world of social interaction, it is up to me to live up to the expectation you have placed on that world. As one without friends, you seem to be unaware of the norms that govern the rules of friendship. When one makes a promise to a friend, they place a burden on oneself, but that burden is taken willingly. You see, it is the burden of sharing the weight of another person's life. One does not take that burden unless they want to bear that weight. When I made my promise to you, I did so wanting your secrets, your fears, your hopes, and your dreams to be a part of my life. I smiled at her and decided I had accomplished enough with the act. The phrasing was silly, the language over the top, the tone ridiculous. Also that she knew that my next words, the words I would have started with had I not needed to retreat to embarrassing theatrics to convey this all to her, were genuine. And I want to be your friend, no matter who you are. She just looked at me for a long time without saying anything, making me nervous. Did I overdo it? She said softly. You're an idiot, but you sure do know how to sweet-talk a girl. Well, idiocy aside, that wasn't my intention. She gave me a bright smile. What would you call that then? Thoughtful encouragement? She laughed at that. Who knows what I got myself into accepting your fireworks invitation, but I'm glad it was you who was my first. Phrasing, Alexandria, phrasing. She gave me an evil little smirk. What? You are and will continue to be my first for a lot of things after all. She decided to respond to all those embarrassing things I said by flirting. Who knows what sort of kinky innuendo these closeted rich girls could come up with. I tried to think of something snarky to retort with, but she put me out of my misery. Thank you, Nick. She grabbed my hand and gave it a shake. I really appreciate it. You're welcome. However, embarrassed as I was, I decided to be a paragon mood killer because I wasn't sure I was ready for the mood that seemed to be approaching, and I pulled out the list of questions I wanted to ask her. But you shouldn't be too trusting yet. I still have a bunch of things to ask you, which I have compiled here. I thrust the piece of paper in her face. She just laughed. And I'll be happy to answer them. After all, you did decide to bear the weight of my secrets, hopes. What else was included? Oh, shut up. Well, you're right. I do have things to answer for you. It's only fair. I thought you wouldn't show up today because of the murder. I know it looked suspicious. It did mess me up a little, but we can discuss that in a bit. Uncle Kyle seems to think there's a possibility the Thorns are being framed. Maybe your brother or dad didn't do it. She frowned. We'll have to discuss that in a bit. But first... She waved my list in front of me. Let's clear up the mysteries of Alexandria Thorn. And, this feels kind of hypocritical right after that cheesy speech I just gave. But I checked in with the town elder, and she was able to verify a lot of the things you told me. What? You think I'd be offended? It was a possibility. Don't worry. I'm glad you were smart enough to look into things. I like the Nick who can give cheesy speeches brimming with idealism, and the Nick who is shrewd enough to look into the background of his friends. You can't just drop the word like on a dude. He's liable to get ideas. Like, or just like? She looked over my list. Thankfully, most of these are pretty easy. I'll start with 1 and 2 here. 1 being why her father had a change of heart, and 2, why she thought Vlad and not her father was the murderer. My father is a stickler for tradition and image. He takes being the head of an important family very seriously. You know, caring about upholding our legacy and image and whatnot. So, he's kind of what you'd imagine in that regard interpersonally. That's why he hid me. He's afraid my existence and the conclusions drawn from it would tarnish the Thorn reputation. Yeah, that's the only reason I was also considering. Makes sense. Currently, he's going through a late-life crisis, if that's a thing. He feels bad about what he did to me, and he regrets treating Blade the way he did. That said, there's something up with him. He must be getting something out of this. I'm just not sure what that is yet. He has something planned for me, I'm sure of it. As for Blade, I don't know the details because I wasn't privy to Blade's training, but from what I know, Father was extremely brutal to Blade. Lots of yelling, lots of insults. I think he even got physical. So, to answer your question, my father supposedly had a change of heart, but I'm not completely sure yet why he gave me my freedom. Sorry. She handed the list back to me before continuing. Now, as for why I think Blade is the killer and not my father, what I just said is one of them. I don't think it would match the way my father has behaved recently. The second reason is pragmatic. I don't think he could. 1, he never leaves the house anymore, mostly just stays in his study. 2, he's kind of frail these days. I'm not sure he could have pulled off the brutal murder of Marina Radek. Her face darkened. Blade's a different story. Blade is, well, he's a complicated guy. He wasn't a bad brother. When we were younger, we played with each other a lot. He's been pretty nice to me in the past, but for the last couple of years he's mostly just done his own thing. Alexandria looked up to the gazebo's ceiling. How do I describe Blade? Well, it feels like he's always one step away from breaking, from taking a step off the ledge. He's got both mommy and daddy issues. He told me that Yina and him never got along, and that she never really treated him like a son. Of course, she died when he was very young, so he's never really had a mother figure in his life. Then, as I mentioned, my father is very tough on him. Blade has been trained as the successor since the moment he could talk. Oh, that's rough. And well, that isn't easy. Blade always complained about how nobody ever thought he was good enough for this family. But you know, Blade has succeeded in his own way. He's become much more popular than my father by bottling up his personal feelings and playing the role he thinks people would want him to play. In that sense, it's worked out, but he's wearing a mask and I think that his mask suffocates him. She looked at me. You menfolk are infuriating. This mask suffocates him and he stubbornly insists on wearing it. He walks a dangerous line with his breaking point. He'll assume the headship soon, and he'll do anything to make sure that the transition goes well. That includes keeping family secrets safe. It would be a betrayal for all he went through otherwise. Given that, between my brother and my father is much more likely to be the one willing to murder someone. She pointed at my list. That leads us to question 3. Which was about the tie between Marina Radek and the Thorns. Marina Radek worked as a maid, but I don't know the specific reason she left or what caused her to be killed. Sorry, I don't know more details. She worked there before I was born. Well, that's probably the investigative lead my uncle is looking to follow up on anyway. That reminds me, isn't your identity going to be known soon? My uncle should be questioning the Thorn staff to find out what they know. That means visiting your mansion. She smiled. Don't underestimate me. Don't underestimate us. I won't be in the mansion when it happens. We have a tunnel from the copper mining days we utilize. Of course you have a secret tunnel. Think of it as a secret passage. I go in and out through there when I go into town and when I return. I make sure no one is looking though. I shook my head. Was it really that simple? Tunnels? How have they kept you hidden? Don't people need documents and stuff? She shook her head. You're so naive. Everything for the family is handled through private connections hired by my father. I get taken care of that way, so I don't need documentation for public stuff. But you're right, my dad will have to figure that stuff out eventually. If he allows my freedom to continue, he'll have to think of something to do about me, but we'll talk about that in a second. She pointed at my list again. She's really just wanting to go through everything, okay. Very focused. Question 4 now. Which was about why she thought Yena Thorne wasn't her mother. That's easy. I just know. What kind of answer is that? Yena and my father didn't get along. They wouldn't have had another child with each other once the heir was born. My existence means that my dad had to be in love with someone else. Plus, why else would my father hide me? Oh, yeah. Guess that makes sense. But why didn't your dad just marry whoever your mother was? She shrugged. No idea. She probably didn't like him as much as he liked her. That's kind of harsh. But it's a possibility. I know my father. I get why someone wouldn't want to live with him. Question 5 now. Which was, did she know who her suspected real mom is? No idea. She was probably a blonde woman from another area, but other than that, I have no clue who my real mom is. She might not even be alive. That's kind of sad. She shrugged. I don't have the mommy issues Vlad does. At this point, it'd be weirder if my mother came back into my life. As for your last question, well, I don't know what my father's plans are for me, but I'll tell you this. I have no intention of being locked away again. She patted me on the arm. I know how devastated you'd be without me, so I'll do my best to stick around. She was right that I'd probably be devastated, but she didn't need to say it. Glad to hear it. You think your father will listen to you? Yep. You'll be surprised to know that I think my father and I are getting along pretty well these days. Really? Yep, don't worry. I think my father wants this to work out, so he'll figure something out. Maybe pretend I was an adopted orphan or something and then just deal with the rumors. She sighed. My brother, on the other hand, isn't thrilled about the idea. He's worried that I'll compromise its transition to head. He used to say that it wasn't fair that I was locked up, but now he gets cold feet when it affects him. Can't stand him sometimes. Yeah, I was wondering about that before, if maybe she's even in potential danger from her brother. If he sees if he feels threatened by her, even if indirectly, just as not being the only heir. I don't know if it's that serious, but something to keep in mind, maybe. That seems kind of stupid. You'd be surprised at what these guys hang on to. Yeah, he cares that much. That sort of world was a world away from the one I lived in. My parents' only concern for our family image was how well we did in the bar trivia days on Thursdays. I sat down on the bench. Thanks for answering my questions, appreciate it. But there was still some stuff I wanted to clarify about the recent murder, if I could hear your thoughts. She smiled broadly and sat down on the bench, right next to me, ignoring the majority of the very nice bench. I am the detective after all, but you'll probably be disappointed. I still think only Vlad could have done it. You see, my uncle thinks that the Thorns don't have much of a motivation to actually kill Beryl Johnson. It makes them way too obvious as culprits. He's thinking that there's a possibility someone wants to make it look like the Thorns did it. Okay, but how about this? A Thorn wants the Thorns to look suspicious. What? I thought you were the great detective. What do you mean? That sounds stupid. That's rich coming from you. I mean, it's possible that Vlad wants to pin this on my father. They haven't exactly been getting along recently. Didn't you just say that Vlad was concerned about the family image? Wouldn't it be a pretty big blow to family image to frame the head for murder? Yeah, but what if Vlad helps bring in his father? Think of it like this. Vlad does something to make the Thorns look suspicious. He helps the investigation along by pinning things on his father. He makes a big deal out of the whole thing and makes himself look good. That way he could get father out of the way and establish himself as head all at once. I don't know, that seems pretty convoluted, especially since you think he killed Marina Radek to keep a secret. Well, I admit that would seem kind of silly to kill her to keep a secret and then oust father. No, I admit that I can't find an easy motive for why Vlad would have killed Beryl Johnson, but I think there could definitely be reasons why Vlad wants the Thorns to look suspicious at the moment. Maybe we've been going about it wrong. What if we have two different murderers? Vlad killed Marina Radek and someone else killed Beryl Johnson? She frowned. I thought about that, and one of the earlier suspects fits in nicely with that theory. Remember the professor guy? He was in love with Marina Radek, so he probably wouldn't kill her. But if he was crazy and thought that Beryl Johnson might have killed her because she didn't like Marina for messy romantic reasons, then he would have a clear motive. That must be it. That will make sense. Alexandria didn't share my enthusiasm. I don't know. I'd have to meet the guy to get a better impression. I'm not good at interacting with others, but I'm pretty good at reading them. I scoffed. She scoffed back. I still think Vlad is more likely to have done it. I suspect the murders are connected in some way. Beryl Johnson might have known something. She was connected with Marina via Marina's husband, after all. I nodded. That was true. In any case, all things considered, my meeting with Alexandria had went extraordinarily well. I think Alexandria and I were kind of figuring out what us meant, now that we had been vulnerable with each other. Okay, shortly coming back to that theory that Vlad is trying to pin it on his father. I wouldn't rule it out, I guess, from what we've learned so far, but it would be a very risky move. Because yeah, he could be like exposing his father, but he would always risk exposing something about himself, even if it's not the murder exactly. But like with investigations, then wanting to dig into family stuff, I don't know. Very high risk, basically a very stupid move. So what can I tell my uncle about all this? I can't tell him about your father and Vlad's personalities. He'd question where I got the info. She rolled her eyes. Of course you can. You just gotta come up with a believable excuse for why you know it. What would that be? She rolled her eyes in the other direction this time. You can't leave everything to the girl, you know. Yes, well, in your own words, I'm an idiot, so in this case, I need the girl's help. At least you're honest. How about this? You could say that I've been snooping around and met Vlad in town. He's there all the time. As for my father, You met with the elder, right? You can say something from that. Yeah, that could work. I'll figure something out. I looked outside the gazebo. There was still some time before the sun set, and I had to be home given my new curfew. I pointed in the general direction of downtown. Good work, Alexandria. You want to get some coffee now to relax a bit? We could see if you're capable of ordering coffee now. I can handle ordering coffee now. I've gone through pancakes after all. We went to the coffee shop we had gone to on our first outing, and she did manage to order her own coffee. We sat at a table in the back while I watched her pour ridiculous amounts of sugar and creamer into her hazelnut-flavored coffee, while soft piano music played. She's a real modern girl. It was strange. We were acting the way we usually did, but something was different now. We were closer. Our relationship was a little different than that of normal friends. We were accomplices? Maybe partners? It was like we had our own little world now. There was something that would only exist between me and her. I liked that, and I was also scared of it. I was in uncharted waters. I had previous girlfriends, but it was different with Charlotte and Jennifer. That had been typical flirting at high school. We hung out at lunch break and I asked them out. There was nothing really special between us. My relationships with them ended like how they began, with little feeling. But with Alexandria, there was a part of her that only I knew, and there was a part of me that only she knew. I knew the secret teller, and she knew the secret holder. What would become of us, Alexandria? You said your dad would probably let your freedom continue, but was that really the case? The uncertainty was scary, but it made each moment more precious. I knew I had to savor them. Well, he can't really keep her locked up when she's 18. That's illegal. But also, yeah, what I mentioned before, like she'd need at least like document and some kind of starting capital, I suppose, if she wanted to move out. Watching her happily drink her coffee, I thought that we had to be the only pair of teenagers brought together because of a murder. Weirdly enough, I don't think that's true, but it's unlikely. Murder brought us together, and shared secrets brought us closer. Her breaking her promise to her father brought her one step closer towards me, and my keeping of a promise brought me one step closer towards her. I wondered what the next steps would be. What's up? You look like you're lost in thought. Just thinking about how weird we are. We? Aren't I the weird one? I laughed. No, I'm definitely weird too. And it's probably your fault, Alexandria. I grabbed a handful of sugar and creamer and started dumping them in my coffee. What's gotten into you? Oh, just being reflective. What does copying my coffee habits have to do with being reflective? Just wanted to see what your world was like. Somehow, I don't think sweet coffee conveys what my world is like. It's worth a shot. I lifted my coffee cup at her. A toast. To being weird. She smiled at me and raised her coffee cup. To being weird. I'll toast to that too. We clinked our cups together, and the secret breaker and the secret keeper drank their coffee. Sweet coffee is actually pretty good. June 23rd, 1997. I haven't been able to sleep since the nightmare. I can't control my thoughts. I'm going crazy. The first nightmare. A woman in a nightgown. Another nightmare. A woman with a bullet in her chest. I must be a murderer. No friends or family to talk to, but that's okay, because I can talk to the ghosts of the people I've killed. The current murderer probably wants to meet up with me. We can talk about all the ways in which we've killed. I've killed with a knife and a gun. 8 stabs with a knife. Stab, 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 stab. Just one gunshot. Bang. That's nice. I'm a maimer, the current murderer tells me. Flesh everywhere, limbs strewn about. Like to make a real mess of things. How do you handle it? Handle what? The guilt. You know, from killing people. Oh, that's easy. I don't. I have real bad dreams. I can't sleep after. broken and fallen apart after. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Sorry for stabbing you. Sorry for shooting you. Apologies are never good enough. Sometimes I hear them say that. I know that. That's why I have these dreams. Why am I talking to a murderer? I don't want to talk to a murderer. I don't want to be a murderer. I'm not like you. I'm not like you at all. I'm innocent. I have visions, but that doesn't mean I've killed anyone. I'm just a messenger. I've forgotten my past self, and I'm here now to tell others what will happen. I'm not going to be a murderer. I'm going to be a savior. Do I really think that? Of course I don't. Don't be fucking delusional. Pull yourself together. You're not a murderer. You're not a prophet. You're just a dude with amnesia. Stop driving yourself crazy. I know that. I know that. But the stabbing, the shooting, the killing, those images keep coming back. Sorry. I'm sorry. Why am I like this? I try to forget and I can't. I try to think anything else and I can't. I'm so tired of these thoughts. How do you get rid of thoughts? Is death the only way? I bet it's quiet when you're dead. No thinking. No thoughts. No guilt. Might be better that way. Much better. I need to call Detective Storm. I need to talk to someone, anyone. I can't be left alone. I can't keep going on like this. I'm going crazy, I know that. I need help. Thank you for realizing that. I race downstairs. I start to go for the phone. I'm sorry to bother her, but I need someone. But... I feel something. I know they're watching. They've been watching me all along. That's why they know what I've done. I see them. Through the windows. That's how they see me. The townspeople, they know. They know I'm a murderer. They watch me. They're scheming together. They want to punish me. Detective Storm must be on their side. She sends them to watch me. They're all in on this. I rush to the living room. Even here they're looking at me. There they are. They're glaring at me. Murderer. Murderer. Leave. Leave. I want to, but I have nowhere to go. We'll make you suffer. You'll suffer for what you've done. I'm sorry. So sorry. I'll do better. Please, just go away. Leave me alone. Stop looking at me like that. I run back to my room. I close the blinds. Tired of people judging me. I just want to be left alone. I close my eyes. It doesn't help. The images come back. A woman in a nightgown. A body in a coffin. I'm sorry. I don't like this. I open my eyes. I feel the people looking back at me, judging me. They're very angry with me. They want me to suffer. I don't like that either. I close my eyes again. The images come back. Can't take this. Can't take this. Sorry. Need to go. Help. I ran out of the house. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy because I haven't been sleeping. I told Detective Storm that someone would die, that they'd be shot, but that's all I could tell her. I couldn't tell her anymore. I know it wasn't helpful. I told her I was sorry. That's all I could do. I can't control my thoughts. I know things, I remember things, but I don't really know what I know. I don't really remember what I remember. Thoughts spring up, they control me. I obsess over them. I stayed locked up in the house to avoid the townspeople, but I can't escape the thought that everyone knows I'm a murderer. They'll judge me, and it scares me. I keep running and running. I don't know where I'm going. People are probably looking. Let them look. I'm already crazy. I'm gone. If you're looking for the murderer in me, he's gone. He already left. He left me alone to fight these feelings. If I keep running, I'll be too tired to think. That's what I want. No thoughts. Anything but any more damn thoughts. I keep running and running and running. I'm out of shape, very tired, but that's good. Very good. I see water in the distance. That's the canal. Good. If the thoughts don't go away, I'll jump in. Too tired to swim. Maybe I'll drown. Scary for a little, but then no thoughts. Nice and quiet. That'd be nice. Keep running and keep running. Keep running and keep running. The water comes to me. I stop. I look at the water. No thoughts. No thoughts. Just tired. The water is nice. Nice. I keep looking at the peaceful waves, the azure calm. Very calm. Very peaceful. I'm... I sit down and watch the waves, and watch the waves. I let time pass by. I've been slowly breaking since the second nightmare. This must have been my limit. I don't really want to drown. I'm not going to throw myself into the canal. I don't think I want to die. Even if I do decide to kill myself, I'm not going to drown myself when there are much quicker, much less painful ways to die. Am I a murderer? I'm probably a murderer. Why else would I have these dreams? They're not just dreams, they're much more than that. They're the echoes of my subconscious guilt that won't let me run away. Amnesia can only grant me temporary peace. I probably deserve to die, but not just yet. I want to save the next victim. For some reason, I know what will happen. A middle-aged woman will be shot in the heart. I know this. If I could just remember who it was, Detective Storm could protect her, save her. If I could just remember and give her something to work with. After that, we'll save the third victim. There will be more murder attempts. We'll stop them. I'll remember who the murderer is. I must have known them. How else would I know what's going to happen? That didn't feel quite right, but it was all I had to work with. I would have to save the next victims, and myself with that. When the murderer was caught, and I remembered who I was, only then could I decide whether or not to run away, whatever running away entailed. I watched the canal waves peacefully lap onto the dock. I let my head go empty for a long time, just watching the water. It was beautiful, very beautiful. The sky was a cloudless, clear blue. I was sweaty, my shirt had been soaked from my run here. I don't think I exercised all that much. How had I managed to get here so fast? I kept watching the waves. If I died, I couldn't watch the waves like this. That would be sad. I sat like that for a long time. I didn't keep track of how long I sat there. It must have been hours. Eventually, I got up and made my way back to Detective Storm's place. I don't know if I'm sold on the idea that we have to have something to do with the murders. Like, I get that might all be delusions and we're in his head now and he just believes that. That's fine. But I don't know. Everything's fishy. I was exhausted and severely dehydrated when I got back. Detective Storm raged like her name when she saw me. Told me she was mad that I worried her and made me drink lots of water. I told her I was sorry. I told her about my breakdown. I told her that I had pulled myself together. She was very nice to me. Told me to be gentle with myself. Told me to take care of myself. She told me those things in a very gruff sort of manner, with an embarrassed look. I told her I'd do my best to help her with the investigation. She told me not to worry about it. I knew that was a lie. It was a nice lie. I was exhausted. After saying goodnight to Detective Storm, I went to bed. I fell asleep in minutes. It was my first good night of sleep since the nightmare. Okay, so some rest. That's nice. I spent the next couple of days returning to the canal front to think. I liked looking at the waves. I liked nighttime the best, but during the day, I liked coming here. It was peaceful, and I needed that. I tried to remember things, but nothing came to mind. That was okay. Even if nothing came to mind, I could just watch the water. The coming and going of the tide was my lullaby. Well, canals don't have tides, but same idea. I watched the waves rock back and forth. June 27th, 1997. I visited the canal front again. I tried harder to remember things today. Forgetting about my worries would only delay the inevitable. Knowing my dreams, I was going to break down eventually. The only way I could deal with my situation was to remember who I was. I started piecing together what I knew. I knew the Thorns had run Alcantra in the past, but they no longer did. Something had happened to them. I also felt that I had some sort of connection to the Thorns. The name brought different emotions to mind. It was hard to sum up what emotions the name brought me. It was complicated, lots of good and lots of bad. I knew I was involved in several deaths. I was involved in the stabbing of a woman, a murder that wasn't being currently investigated. I was also involved in a murder that resulted in a woman being shot. There was going to be a second murder, and the second murder was going to resemble my second nightmare. How did I know this? Was I predicting the future? No. 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 No, I was remembering the past, something that had already happened. There was something off about Alcantra. Why did no one talk about the Thorns? They were so important to Alcantra. There had been an event. A series of events. I thought about the legend of the Ghost of Alcantra. Something about that story was very familiar. I had been thinking of a different legend, another one people used to tell, but the legend Elaine Weatherton had told me. There was something very familiar about that too. What was it? I was so close. All the pieces were there. The Thorns, Alcantra, murders, the Ghost of Alcantra. I was so close to remembering something. Today was June 27th, 1997. When I woke up, I knew today was important. Today felt special. Something was going to happen. That's why I tried harder to remember today. June 27th and 1997. The dates. That was the key. It finally came to me. I felt knocked over by the realization. Why hadn't anyone brought it up? 1997. Detective Storm had told me that there were some crimes a decade ago. It wasn't just crimes. It was a series of murders. There were 3 murders, just like the legend Elaine Weatherton told me. Was that legend based on what had happened? How come no one brought it up? Yes, in 1987 there were 3 murders. I thought about my second nightmare. There were 3 coffins for the 3 victims, and the 4th coffin must be Alcantra's, the ghost the murderer wanted to bring back. It all made sense. I knew that the murders in 1997 were going to mimic the murders of 1987. Someone was trying to bring someone back. The murders of 1987. Was I the murderer? That didn't feel quite right. But what other interpretation matched my nightmares? And the Thorns. They were involved in the murders too. I knew I was involved with the Thorns. Did we work together? I could worry about my own sins later. The second victim needed to be protected. June 27th. June 27th. The date was important. Today was important. The first victim in both 1987 and 1997. They both had been brutally maimed. The second victim in both murders would be shot through the heart. When would that be? When would that be? June 27th. It will be today. They would die today. I don't know whether murders now are mimicking the murders of 1987. I don't know how I was involved, but I knew this would be my last chance to save the second victim. She had told me in my dream that her death was inevitable, but it wasn't. We could save her. What was her name? Her name? I couldn't remember. She's a middle-aged woman, but there was something about her, a distinguishing characteristic. She was involved in something with the town. I didn't know what was going on in Alcantra now. I had been gone too long. Something else. I needed something else. I know, she was a suspect. She had been thought of as a suspect for the first murder. That's what had happened in 1987. It would be the same now. I needed to tell Detective Storm what I knew immediately. We needed to protect all the middle-aged women who were suspects in the case. There couldn't be that many. We could prevent the second death. Okay, yeah, that's a theory I had before, that everything is basically repeating itself, and if so, then that's a pretty good lead we have here. But also the detective could have thought of that herself, when the first murder looked the same. I ran to the nearest phone booth, one close to the canal. I called up Detective Storm's office phone. Yes, Detective Storm speaking. This is Victor. The message you got was right. I do know. I told her what I knew, that the second victim would be a middle-aged woman who was a suspect. I also told her that I had remembered more about myself, but that could wait. She didn't question anything. All right, I believe you. There are 2 suspects who meet your criteria. I'm going to check on them right away. Tell me where you are. I want you to come with me. I told her my location, and she hung up. I was relieved she believed me. Her distrust in me had ironically created our strongest tie. She believed me to be a criminal who was involved in whatever was going on. That's why she kept me around. I stepped out of the phone booth and waited impatiently for Detective Storm's car. The police station was quite close to the canal, so Detective Storm arrived to pick me up in 3 minutes. 2 things dawned on me as I got into the car. First, Detective Storm probably couldn't get a full police team to join her for this. Mobilizing everyone because an amnesiac remembered something, they wouldn't buy that. That was understandable, but worrisome. What if we encountered the murderer? Second, it ironically dawned on me that it was dusk. I might have remembered too late. There wasn't much of the 27th left. The murder could have already happened. I had to bank on the hope that someone was more likely to be murdered at night. As soon as I buckled in, Detective Storm started tearing towards the east side of town. She was going ridiculously fast, around 50 on 25. Could detectives get pulled over for speeding? Will we be alright? What do you mean? In case we meet the killer. Oh, no worries there. I got my partner with me. She patted the side of her hip. I guess she meant her gun. I've never lost a fight, and never will. You've been in shootouts before? No, but I wouldn't lose if I was in one. I didn't find that reassuring. Same. Tell me everything you remembered. We've got 5 minutes till our destination. We'll start with Dolores Lyle Schmidt. She's just a little past the east side of town. The other person who matches your description is Beatrice Jameston, and she lives way outside of town. She'll take nearly half an hour to get to, though I'm gonna go like 80 on the highway so I can shorten that a little. I told her what I had remembered, that the murders were mimicking a set of murders in 1987, and that the Thorns had been involved in them. I told her that I probably was too. Okay, one thing. I think going to the potential victims isn't a bad call, but couldn't we have tried calling them as well? I don't know. Did you already know that about me? Victor, I barely know about the murders in 1987. I've only been stationed here a couple of years. All I know was that there was a bad crime in 1987 and that they needed a detective here. But don't you have access to the files? That struck me as incredibly fishy, thank you. You didn't know about the murders, or the Thorns? Just that they happened and that they existed. That seems so negligent. She just shrugged her shoulders. I don't worry about the past much. I'm a forward-looking girl. But you're a detective. You're supposed to worry about the past. She shrugged again. I'm probably a better guide than I am a detective. I'll look into those murders after today. If you're right, we should be able to do something then. Either she was lying to me, or the police here were the most incompetent group of people on Earth. Yeah, that's what I'm suspecting as well. It's a small town. There's not gonna be a ton of murders, even if it was 10 years ago. That's not a lot for such a big case, if there were 3 murders. Weird. There was no way that no one informed the detective working here about the murders in 1987 or what happened to the Thorns, given that they're connected to what happened in 1987. I suspected she was lying to me. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. I shook my head. I could worry about what she was hiding from me later. Protecting the next victim was the top priority. A couple of minutes later, we reached Dolores Lyle Schmidt's house, a small cottage surrounded by large forests. Stay in the car. Let me handle this. I nodded. I may have been borderline suicidal a couple of days ago, but I didn't want to get in a gunfight. If I was to die, it would be on my own terms. Stay safe, detective. Of course. She cocked her pistol and headed towards the house. Oh dear. There was still something strange about all this. Detective Storm never mentioned if they caught the culprit in the 1987 cases. They must not have, otherwise they'd have much more to go off of. Then how were the Thorns connected? They were gone now, so something must have caused them to leave. Then again, if they were never caught, then that would be all the more reason to, think back to the cases, to connect them. That was what bothered me the most about this. It was like people had just forgotten what had happened in 1987, just like I had. I remembered what Elaine Weatherton had told me. She told me that only she and I would remember the previous Alcantra, and that others would remember only if I allowed them to. Obviously, I couldn't control people's memories, so that couldn't be it. But what was really going on then? Asking the real questions. I cast that out of my mind. Detective Storm and I would prevent the second murder from happening today. Later, we would prevent the third murder. After that, I could worry about other things. Detective Storm returned about 5 minutes later. Is she okay? She's fine. I've got her in a lockdown set up until backup comes. They should be here in 5 minutes. You got backup? Your whole department believes me? I convinced them that you're my best lead. They'll protect her until further notice. Okay. Not bad. Thank you. I really mean it. Of course. I asked you to help me solve this after all. I should be thanking you. She backed the car out onto the highway and started dripping towards the countryside. Even with Detective Storm driving like a maniac, she was pushing 90 on 55, it would still take a bit to get there. My worry and anxiety grew as I watched the sun recede into the distance. The cover of darkness was normally comforting. Today, it only heightened my nervous anticipation. The 27th was ending. I hoped that when I remembered the details of the third murder, I would remember them in a more timely manner. I mean, again, if we know it's connected to the murders from 10 years ago, she can go look up the files and get some more details, right? Just as the sun hid behind the horizon for good, we arrived at the driveway of Beatrice Jameston. She had a long winding gravel driveway that sloped upward. It would have been a nightmare to snowblow during the winter. It must have been nearly 200 meters from the road to our house. Detective Storm didn't pull into the driveway, she just stared at a spot behind the mailbox that was on the side of the road. What are you doing? We need to... Then I saw what she was looking at. Just like at the first murder scene, there was a message that looked like it was written in blood. The message said, "You're too late." Damn. Late. Late. Too late. You're... No. I can't be. No, I am. I'm too late. Detective Storm pulled the car to the side of the road and turned it off. She reached to the back seat and grabbed a bag that I assumed contained materials to investigate a crime scene. Stay in the car. No. What? I want to see her. The murderer. You'll protect me, right? She glared at me, but I wasn't willing to cooperate. Don't worry about protecting me, Detective Storm. Maybe it would be better if I got shot. Was I going to break? Was I already broken? Probably. It was probably too late for me now, but just in case it wasn't, I wanted to apologize to Beatrice Jameston, to the woman in my nightmares, to the woman I condemned to a coffin. I got out of the car and started making my way up the slope. Detective Storm ran after me. All right then, stay behind me. Don't touch anything. Okay. She pulled out her pistol and held it at the ready and walked in front of me. 50 meters up the slope, we found a second message. It was a repeat message, written in crimson, guilt-laden red was, "This is your fault." This is your fault, the same message that had been left at the first crime scene. I didn't pay much attention to the message. There was no need to say the obvious. I didn't say anything to Detective Storm, who was looking at me carefully. I knew she had things she wanted to say, but she kept quiet. I kept walking. After another 50 meters, we found the third message. Apparently, the killer was getting fed up with me. Written in the usual red was, "Stop running." Stop running? How funny was that? Even the killer was giving me psychological advice. Elaine Weatherton told me to stop running. Detective Storm told me to stop running. No, a murderer was telling me to stop running. I burst out laughing. Detective Storm looked at me with a nervous expression. I had never seen that look on her face before. It made me laugh even harder. You alright? Nope. She looked alarmed. You should really go back to the car. Not happening. Not till I see Beatrice Jameson dead with a bullet in her chest. Even if I was late, I might as well confirm my prophetic abilities. You never know when you might get the chance to demonstrate their uselessness. I walked past Detective Storm. If you want to do something about me, Detective Storm, use that pistol. Do it, I dare you. You can't just let a potential suspect disobey your orders like that. Go ahead and do it. Show me what happens to people who don't listen to you. Apparently nothing. She just trotted back ahead of me, resigned to the fact that I had lost it. I guess she figured it was best to be around me in case I decided to do something stupid. Don't worry, Detective Storm. Not yet. Not yet. Oh boy. After another 50 meters, right in front of Beatrice Jameson's house, there on the ground was the last message. It was another repeater. It said, in all caps, "Her blood is on your hands." Well, there's no point in yelling about it. That doesn't make things any clearer. You have to be specific. Whose blood is on my hands? There's a lot of options, you know. Could it be the woman from my first nightmare? Could it be Marcella Rivers, brutally maimed? Could it be Beatrice Jameson, recently shot? Could it be any of the poor victims from 1987? You have to be specific. I have a lot of blood on my hands. I mean, again, we don't know that for a fact. The door to Beatrice Jameson's home was open. On quick examination, you could see that the doorknob had been shot through. The home had been broken into. That didn't surprise me. It was just another piece to the puzzle. The first murder victim had let the culprit into her home. The second victim had her home broken into. That's just how things were. Detective Storm pushed me aside as I stared at the broken door. "Stay behind me. Get down if you hear any shots." I nodded. She raised up her pistol and walked through the open doorway. I followed after her. Just past the entryway was the body of Beatrice Jameson, welcoming us into her home. It was the woman I had seen in my dream. "Don't touch anything." I nodded again. I just inched a little closer to confirm. Her corpse looked more peaceful than I imagined it would. It took me a while to identify where the bullet wound was. She had indeed been shot in the chest. It almost looked like she was enjoying her rest. Her death would have been quick. She probably didn't suffer too much. I could at least be grateful for that. Detective Storm checked the other rooms while I looked at the deceased Beatrice Jameson. That was a mistake. The thoughts came to me again. I'm going to break. I'm going to fall into pieces. I'm already broken beyond repair. I'm gone. There's no saving me. You were my salvation, my hope. You were my refuge from the guilt that has gnawed at me. The only way I could save myself was to save you. And, well, look at you now. What's next for me? I know what will happen next. I'll have conversations with murderers I've never met, corpses who don't yet exist, ghosts of those who lived. Everywhere I go, I'm going to see the judgmental faces of those who look upon a wretch like me. I'll see their disgust, I'll hear their disdain. I'm not going to be able to take it. My only hope from going crazy was you. And you failed me, because I failed you. I'm sorry. I apologized to a corpse. As a testament to my insanity, I thought I could hear the corpse respond. She told me that it was okay. People have been telling me such nice lies recently. If only I could believe them. So he really did see her? Like her exact likeness in the dream? Really? Detective Storm returned and put on some gloves. I assumed she was going to examine the crime scene. The police are on their way. Okay. You should probably go outside. Looking at the body isn't going to do you any good. You're right. I know I'm right. Go outside. This isn't your fault. Another nice lie. I made my way out of the house. Maybe the moon could comfort me better than the ghosts and people around me could. There it was, my fellow army of one. It would know what I feel like right now, to be so hopelessly alone. Victor! Detective Storm shouted back at me. You can't give in yet. There's still one more person, right? We have to save them. You hear that? You can't give in yet. Not until the very end. I stared back hollowly at her. Yes, she was right. I knew I couldn't give up yet. I owed the previous victims that much. Could I keep myself from falling apart till then? I doubted it, but I had to at least try. I won't give up yet. I won't give up. Not yet anyway. She nodded at me. Good. Giving up is for losers, and you aren't a loser. You won't be doing any of that while you're staying with me. I'm counting on you. It was an insensitive pep talk, but it was better than nothing. Saving 1 out of 3 is better than 0 out of 3. I looked up at the moon. I leaned against the side of the house in front of the message that said, "The blood is on your hand," and stared upward. I was on the precipice of madness, dancing on the edge of my breaking point. I deserved this. I felt that. I felt it strongly. Guilt had been my closest and most reliable companion since I woke up in that hospital bed. I deserved to go mad. I deserved to break. The rest of the police arrived 20 minutes later. They set up a perimeter, made me move from my spot, and proceeded with their investigation. Detective Storm told me to wait in her car, but I decided to continue looking at the moon. It had given me strength before. I needed it to give me strength again. The moon seemed so big, so proud and strong in the night sky, but it was actually very small, all things considered. Just a tiny part of the cosmos. Almost entirely insignificant. Then look at me. Compared to the moon, I was nothing. Even smaller, even more insignificant. The somberness of this nihilist realization comforted me. No matter what happened, it wouldn't matter anyway. Do I really believe that? Of course I don't. If I didn't think things mattered, I wouldn't feel like this. Maybe the moon feels the same way. Of course it doesn't. It's a rock. It doesn't feel anything. Despite that, it's still there. Despite everything, I'm still here. Until actual nothingness takes us, we were something, no matter how small. This is all I have, ever will have. Nothingness would come, and until then, this was everything. Nothing matters, and that's why everything does. Very philosophical. I stayed like that for a while. Eventually, Detective Storm tapped me on the shoulder, a kind expression on her face. Let's go home. We didn't talk about the murder or the investigation on the way back. Detective Storm drove in silence, and I looked out the window. I'm sure there were things she wanted to ask me, but she was too afraid of breaking me any further. I wanted to reassure her that I wasn't going to break, but I couldn't say that truthfully. Every time I found my resolve, it seemed like something new arose to break it. This almost felt like a torture specifically made for me. It was late when we returned to our home. I was too scared to go to bed. I already had 2 nightmares. Could I handle a third one? Detective Storm must have sensed this. She spoke to me gently. Not getting any sleep will only make you feel worse, you know. That was true. Not sleeping had almost made me go insane. Maybe it's better if I go insane. No, it's not. You're not going insane until you help me with this case. I tried to smile at that. I'm certain a therapist would not have approved of her saying that. I'll do my best. You'll do better than that. You'll succeed. For someone who thinks I'm a criminal, you sure can be nice to me. She laughed. What makes you think I think you're a criminal? I just know you're involved. Same thing. Is it? I guess it might as well have been. Get some rest. You'll feel better in the morning. Okay. I was afraid of the nightmares I'd have, but a nightmare might be a blessing. The first nightmare served as a reminder of what I had done previously. The second nightmare foresaw what would happen to the second victim. The third nightmare could very well tell me something important. Surprisingly, I fell asleep quite easily. Unfortunately, I rested quite well. My mind knowing that my nightmares could help me figure out my situation, I slept dreamlessly. Of course, but at least you get some rest. That's also worth something. Okay, that was a lot. I'm going to keep it here for today. Okay, so Nick had a great day and Victor a horrible one, or a few horrible ones. I mean, I already raised all the complaints I have, I think, with not looking into the past murders, but at least the detective said she would look into the 1987 case, so that's something. Maybe we can make some actual progress there. I did not, like, I kind of saw it coming that the second murder would have taken place, sure. Didn't have too much hope there. But it's also unsatisfying, you know. But yeah, maybe we can really use the leads we have now properly, I don't know. And even if the third murder still happens, at least we'll know who did it. And I think we can at least be sure that Victor really didn't do it. Like, that might have been a possibility before as well. Like, the detective did leave him alone. He might have run off, done something and doesn't remember it. Like, I don't know, dissociating or something. But with the second victim living so far out, that doesn't seem very probable, if not even impossible, if he doesn't ever ride on his own. So that's something. At least we know he isn't the murderer now. And I didn't expect him to be either. This whole guilt thing, like, he probably is connected to something. Whether it's the murders from 1987 or like causing deaths indirectly or thinking he played a part in it. I don't think he really is a murderer. Might be wrong, I don't know. but you know that the guilt is coming from something else. But yeah, I'm going to leave it here for today. As always, I'd appreciate if you'd let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.